So I guess we really need to decide if we want to move forward with the plan.
Right. And because some people were absent, Tom, would you sort of just summarize and go back over
Sure,
what the plan
sure. See
is?
what I can do here. Um, the purpose is to examine ways in which we can create a greater sense of vitality between the business community and the culture arts community. And the idea would be to get representatives. We would ask people to come. It'd be open to the public, but we would primarily it made invitations to people who are a part of the Business Roundtable as well as the Chamber, and then those representing the arts councils and the various arts organizations in Concord to come together for a forum. And the purpose of this forum is to really, as I said, is to look for ways in which we can enhance, each can enhance the other's, um, their work activities in terms of trying to do. The agenda would basically be first a presentation, maybe 15, 20 minutes by me or somebody to speak through the impact, or maybe Stuart, looking at the impact of the arts community, how arts actually affects businesses within the Commonwealth. And there's been a number of studies. And so the idea would be to set the context that there really is an opportunity here that is important for us all to be aware of, because it happens, it has happened in other places where they put some concerted effort into that. So then you basically some opening kind of remarks about that. Then we basically break the group into two groups, maybe a third, but we'll call it two groups. One of which that are focused primarily on the business communities, and one focused primarily arts and cultural communities. And what we'd be looking to do is to generate through brainstorming, because this is really just a brainstorming kind of event. People would write down on like little post-its, if you will, an idea of something that if the arts committee were to do some things like this or whatever, it would help my business be more profitable, successful, growing, whatever, or active. Vice versa. I'm in an arts organization, and if I can get the business community to do these kinds of things, it will help us to really promote what we're trying to do in this particular arts community. And the idea is to take some time individually, where people it makes a list of things, one item per little sheet, and then we would post them all up in this whichever room we're in, and at that point in time to have a discussion about what are the things that are there, so the arts people hearing about that, and the business people hearing about that. Then we bring the group back together as a total and hear a little bit of highlights if we're in two groups or four groups, whatever. What were some sort of key learnings that you got from that? Was the tone or nature or some things that would be of value that we should be considering as a community? And then the idea would be to take, and we hopefully will have 50, 100, I don't know, a lot of different ideas listed. And then at that point in time, we would break the group down into another set of groups. But now we have two people from the arts, two people from the business community, and a small team of a quad, if you will, four folks who would take a look at these ideas that are being generated. So which ones you think have the most legs, have the most value, would provide the greatest benefit to both the community and to the respective organizations. In some ways, it's a way to synthesize, if you will, a brainstorming into something that could say, we would do these kinds of things. It would really benefit our community. And then there'll be a note taker within the quad, and they would come back together once again to a large group. We would be collecting all of this information as a committee, but also these groups would be sharing some of the things that they learned about that and the things that they think are most important, have some sort of a dialogue, and wind it up 2 hours later. The whole thing, we think, would be about a 2-hour kind of meeting. And that's about it. So Stuart and Mimi, did I miss anything? There's what we talked about.
That all sounds really great. I think one thing I'd add to that is I happen to have sat in on the West Concord Cultural District meeting today. TUI was there representing the Concord Center Cultural District and the LCC. They had a prolonged discussion this morning about the difficulty of engaging the business community and, and like surveying the business community about the impacts of things like the holiday stroll and the spring into the spring and the Porch Fest and the challenge of interfacing with the businesses in order to plan together. TUI raised the fact that the MCC is changing its guidelines for cultural districts, requiring more sort of representation of sort of business and economic development interests and more investment from towns, requiring Concord Center Cultural District and West Concord Cultural District to sort of integrate better. They all spoke of the sort of desirability of reaching out to organizations like the West Concord Advisory Council, the business partnership. So it's actually really a perfect time to hold a forum like this. Actually, a member of the West Concord Advisory Council was also at the meeting today talking about their interest in collaborating with the cultural district more. So there's something in the water with people talking about how arts and culture can be integrated into real development, economic development, destination marketing, but you have to create these collaborative cross-sector forums or opportunities for them to communicate. So,
Good. Thank you. Do we have a proposed date?
We didn't really come to a date. We're probably would be in given the sort of timing, late February or sometime maybe perhaps in March, but have to look at what the people's calendars and weather's like. And I know
Barefoot Books was willing to do it even this month, but that is pushing it.
Yeah. Because you need to get invitations, you need 6 weeks or some period of time and promoting the thing in some way. So we could do it sooner. It depends on the kind of urgency that we have on the other end. Just to be clear about one thing, because it did come up in the last meeting, this is not a survey as you think of surveys. This is a brainstorming interaction forum. And so it has a different quality than trying to get it. And so it will be important, however, to get people to show up. And that's where I think some invitations and some encouragement from various groups. So one of us probably go meet with the chamber and meet with the round table and meet the various art councils and other organizations that would identify and say, we'd really love to have you come. And you could have, more than one representative. So we're not really trying to hold back. And then some general, communication of the community so they'd be involved. We want this to be an important, with the expectation we may get 30 to 40 people to come. And, so it's not likely to be 100, it's not likely to be 10. It's going to be somewhere a large enough number that will represent the various constituencies, but small enough that we can maneuver around our work in the space.
Well, we talked last time about doing this in sort of late February, as I recall. But, there's a lot of spade work that has to get done. I mean, we've got to secure a venue and pick a date and be very careful of the town calendar because, we're coming up on public hearing kind of stuff and town meeting.
Right.
So what is the path forward for us if we're going to actually pull this off?
Well, I first like to hear from the other committee members, our committee, that says, what do you think about this? Because what this is going to do is give us a lot of stuff to have to pour through. And what these events will, they may work one time, but they won't work a second time unless people feel that they were listened to and some action resulted. So we have to, we don't know what's going to come out of it, but I'd love to hear other members of our committee if you think this is a good idea, or are we kind of smoking up a rope, whatever the expression is.
I have a question for Stuart. Stuart, is there a model either in Arlington or somewhere else where you can sort of set the hook as to how combining arts and maybe just let's call it commercial business is synergistic? Because, even today, this is my second meeting of the day. I'm looking at like 3 or 4 hours it's just hard to get people's time. And unless you have a really compelling hook, I don't think it's going to be easy to get people, the business community here. And I think that if you were able to say, this is how Arlington did it, or this is how some other town, Hudson, Maynard, Bedford, Lexington, pick a town, doesn't matter. But here's what they did, here's the benefit they realized, and we think we can do that even maybe better. So that's what, and here are the 3 or 4 goals that are going to work for both, the commercial sector, if you will, as well as the arts sector.
Oh, yes. I think there are some concrete examples we could present up front that would be impressive. I'll say, I mean, the MAPC this year just had their annual meeting here in Arlington. The whole meeting was dedicated to the arts and culture imperative, in development, right, and planning. MAPC was one of the first of the planning councils in the country that had full-time dedicated arts and culture staff. They totally have bought into the fact that this is necessary for economic development. So they also have examples that could be pulled out. I mean, we've got data from America from the Arts and New England Foundation for the Arts that discuss the economic impact of arts and culture sector on local economies. So we'll have plenty of data, I think, for a presentation. What might be good is just coming up with an anecdotal sort of 3 to 5 minute example where you have a private business collaborating with a municipality, collaborating with an artist to sort of do creative placemaking and something that becomes a successful feature over time. I can suggest some.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that the thing that is difficult is Concord is unusual in that it's not like Hudson or Maynard or Bedford or Lexington or Wellesley. Concord has specific benefits as well as specific limitations. And I think that data that says, here's the Massachusetts data, or here's this broad set of data, isn't necessarily helpful or compelling as to why that data is going to work so well in Concord as the opportunity. So I think it really should be sort of like what you think has worked in other towns and how, given some of Concord's, think about parking, think about composition of retail, what have you, relatively small amount of business relative to some of the other towns, but how that can be sort of synergistically, increased. I just don't think state data or national data is super helpful. I don't think it actually is helpful at all.
Other comments?
I have one. I'd like to know if the MAPC meeting is available on tape for viewing. Can you hear me?
I honestly don't know if they've recorded it, but I'm sure they would be willing to share their presentations.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be useful. Also, I agree. I think there should be fewer than 4. I think there should be 1 or 2 goals, very clearly stated. What we hope to come out of it, why somebody should attend.
Okay, Betsy, other comments?
Well, I think it's a great idea, and I think the culture community can help the business community, and the business community can benefit a lot. I'm not sure how much the cultural community will benefit from the businesses, interestingly enough. I don't know whether that's a two-way street in terms of benefit, but I think getting the businesses, we had on the partnership when we tried to get the retail, when we say business, are we saying retail or are we saying business in all, all in general, or what, who are we trying to get there? Are we trying to get retail folks? Stuart?
Well, I I think retail would help in the example that I just raised from West Concord. That's what they were talking about. But
Mhm.
it's equally, realtors, the National Realtors Society has a grant for creative placemaking, that it gives out
I
to
agree.
its real estate companies. I mean, there are sectors that have dug in and have bought into the value of
Yeah.
arts and culture. I mean, that's one reason why Arlington is continually in Wallet Hub's top, 20 places in America to live.
Yeah,
Small
yeah.
places because the quality of life and arts and culture is one of the criteria, right?
Yeah.
So not just retail. I don't think so. And
No,
I
I mean,
think
if we're trying to get it, so it is broader, which is great.
yeah,
But
for sure.
it's difficult to get retail folks to meetings and get them to come out of their shells.
So I think a little bit of like, we're not talking about a huge crowd of people. If we get 50 people, I think that's about the goal we're looking at. So say
5 or
25
6.
businesses. And I think if we think a little bit about the types of businesses, so I just had a conversation with an artist recently, a painter, and she said one of the main ways in which she is selling her work is she partners with real estate agents, and she's part of the staging, and she ends up, the people who move in end up buying the piece of work that are there. I've talked to, there had been a big program out in Western Mass, and they had some old manufacturing companies, and they were able to then work with artists who were creating new designs for their products. And they were able, by connecting those groups, they were able to kind of create that synergy that then, it was actually this company that was doing draw liners, that you put into your drawers.
Yeah.
And so they kind of came up with like new pop art designs, and then it kind of helped reinvigorate the community.
Yeah.
It could be, restaurants that, change the gallery, the show artwork there. It could be with musicians. I think we really want to think it expansively. Concord's got a really strong cluster around real estate, and not just real estate agents, but houseware design, potters, the upholstery shop, interior designers. That's all part of the creative economy there too. So I think bringing that together and having people just kind of recognizing what the economy is. I'm not worried about us not having enough people there.
So-
When we had brought just the arts community, we had
I think on that point though, like the artist who's selling his or her paintings, isn't that person a retail commercial entity? So I think when I think of what I thought we were talking about, I thought we were talking about the umbrella. I thought we were talking about the museum. I thought we were talking about the orchard house. But if we're talking about artisans, they are more like a commercial retailer than maybe a nonprofit artist.
But it's sort of a blend though.
Yeah, so I think that the reality is whether it's rents, parking, you name it, I think that applies to everyone.
Mm.
So the potters, the artists, the guys who are selling donuts, it just, so I think you'll lose the business guys, men and women, if they don't understand sort of, because what you just said makes perfect sense. Hey, here's a synergy between an artist trying to sell paintings and real estate, and this is the successful model we've seen.
So
That's pretty good.
Are we trying to solve right now? Are we going to be able to market this event? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
So I'm trying to solve why come to Concord. I'm trying to solve, let's put people in the dark spaces, let's get our building filled, let's bring in more revenue. I'm trying to solve a bigger, from the business partnership and where I come from, as a landowner, a property owner, I think this all dovetails into how to make the districts, whether they be cultural or village-based, whatever it is, more robust and healthy and sustainable. So for me, everything leads to that path.
I think this event is really just meant to sort of have people understand the synergy between the existing artist community and the existing business community and how they can collaborate together. So it's not filling empty spaces. We're not strategizing to that level. I think it's a pretty modest goal.
But the outcome would be
It could
that
potentially be
as it grows.
Yeah.
If people see that we have this working here, then you're more apt to want to rent here. So
That's a really concrete goal.
you have to have a concrete goal.
Yeah.
But we think about what's going to MCI, what's going to 229 Main, what's going into the industrial park where the old gym used to be. If Concord's able to market itself as a welcoming, inclusive, robust community for all sorts of the spectrums, from the Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts to the potters and the painters, that's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
And no one's going to be asking, why should I come to Concord? They're going to say, well, it's sort of obvious why I should come to Concord, and hear all the success stories.
Well, yes, and I hope we would be able to come away with some concrete suggestions of things we might do that would improve the synergies. I think that's the goal that Tom has articulated.
Exactly.
Other comments?
Is that coming back to us as a committee to do that, Mike, in your eyes? Or is that to happen in that 2 hours?
Well, the way Tom had explained it, it would come back to the committee. I think there are techniques in forums like we're suggesting here to consolidate lots and lots of information. The method that we used at executive work through BU was a thing called the KJ method, which was a way of consolidating and coming down to some small number of things. But I think the whole purpose of this forum is to inform us about things we could champion
Okay.
to drive these synergies.
I think it'll be a combination really of those things you saying, Michael, you're right on, is that consolidated things that clearly are thematic, that are more bigger brush kind of things. I would imagine, and I've seen things like this happen before, is that two people will come up with an idea that they can do like the next day. There'll be a potpourri of different things, small things that people, that's part of the purpose of an interactive forum, is that some of the ideas will be generated and can be put into practice like the next day. Others are going to take some work. Some are going to take some guidance, and that's sort of where it can also be. As well as the multiple levels of impacts that will come from this.
I think it's also really valuable to share it out with other stakeholders, with the business partnership and the chamber and the cultural districts and places that have funding and could start actually implementing some things.
Yeah. They may think, wow, I never thought about that. And then they could, for example, somebody runs a fairly large facility could tap into local artists to say, we want to showcase some of the work that you're doing, and they'll provide you and provide my employees or my staff or my customers or my visitors a more enriching type of experience when they come into the building. So those kinds of, and I can do it on the cheap rather than having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on artwork. I could showcase what you're doing and enable you to sell your artwork. Or, there's a lot of things that could evolve out of that we would hopefully will be. What's part of the message is that it'll create some spontaneous action. At the same time, we'll be learning some things as a committee. What do we need to start to help drive within the sort of governor's priorities within the town itself that will then be more enduring or long lasting, and that'll be part of what we're going to get from this. We hope, and that means getting the right people in the room.
Well, we've had a couple of craft shows from and brought in craftsmen from different things that have been quite successful and brings traffic to us and the people to sell wares.
Yeah, that's you would have. What were those things, and how do we encourage them in other places, and or renewing them and people who've done it in the past, but need to bring it forward.
We're also in an exciting time, not to jump the agenda here, but we're in the cusp of opening 2 new museums in town. That'll be, draws. It'll make it even more of a destination, and will sort of enliven activity. And it came up this morning when the West Concord advisory person was talking about the decision of what to do with the gas station over by Paparazzi, and how disappointing it was that the proposals were to have another gas station, right? And then Jen's got her gas station in West Concord. She's going to make a guitar museum. which is going to be a great business and a great anchor to the cultural district. How cool is that?
Mhm.
So that kind of visioning is what could come out of a meeting like this, we hope.
Okay, are there any other comments?
I would just say, I'm brand new, so take that for what it's worth, but is there a reason why we're not considering this for May? Why we're trying to do it kind of soon?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We've had some discussion even at the last meeting. There have been a lot of surveys in this town, and many of them have been lackluster, and people can always say, so what's the right threshold of numbers of people you need to get to fill out the survey? It's really labor intensive to get people to fill out surveys. And it also, it's just a lot of work and effort. I mean, you have lots of good data sometimes, but lots of times you don't have good data. So you get 200 responses. Does that really reflect what you're trying to do? This is not trying to, if you will, to sort of demonstrate that we ought to do something X or Y strategically, but really is to generate some ideas that may come back and say, hey, we need to do more study of this or more study of that in order to really help address issues. I think the primary reason is that surveys are just difficult to do and difficult to get participants. And in some cases, a lot of people are surveyed out. They've been surveyed a lot in the town. And they don't need any more surveys. And so there's a sense that doing something that would be more interactive and more engaging and more, it will give something that people will talk about. The event itself is going to have an impact in addition to it. And so
Surveys are very difficult.
Well, I thought the question had to do with timing.
Yeah.
The question, I think, was timing, in terms of
Well, I mean,
that's true
why
too.
are we putting
Let
more meetings
let me interrupt to say that my experience, having done these a few times, is that we'll never be able to pull this off with the kind of organization that we want before town meeting. There's just too much going on to take the attention away from other people. And, we don't have some of the basic facts we would need, like a date, a venue, an absolute list of who's going to be invited. So my suggestion is that, and it's a suggestion, that we plan on at our February meeting, we have picked a date, we have secured a venue, we have developed a program, we have a list of invitees, and we look at that at our February meeting for a launch in something like early May, post town meeting. And that would give us plenty of chance to get out to all of the organizations and do a little work, get to the partnership, get to the cultural councils, do a little prep work for them. So I said that honestly as a suggestion, but I think Betsy's question makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I would caution, and it's been said several times here in different ways, and you did it right, Mike, in terms of we have our list of folks. I believe we want the public involved, and I wouldn't want it to get out that there's a select group that's going to meet in East Oshkosh and discuss this. And I would refrain as a group of implying that we have participants, but we're going to seek them from all these organizations and the general public. It's just a sentiment I've had sitting here with a couple of phrases.
My point.
If I were listening, because sometimes I monitor minutes, and I would say, well, what am I going there for? They didn't ask me to come. So
my point only, Greg, was that the general public, of course, will be an open meeting and the public will be invited. But if we don't get representatives from the cultural councils, if we get representatives from the partnership and the chamber and West Concord Advisory Group, it's not going to be the kind of program we want.
I agree.
So that
I agree, but I wouldn't want us to present. I was just thinking of how we could promote this, and there are going to be a lot of hearings. We could ask the chair of those hearings for a 2-minute presentation to let people know this is coming in May, should you be interested, because there'll be a lot of people listening to the hearings, but I would want it to be said that we have our list of folks.
Right. That's a good point.
Here's my specific suggestion. Stuart, Tom, and Beth, I think, was the group that was.
It was Mimi. It was Mimi, not Beth.
And Mimi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not Beth. Beth could join us. We love her, but it was really Mimi.
Okay.
And,
Mimi, Stuart, Tom, get together before our next February meeting and come back with who we're going to invite, where we're going to do it, what date we're going to do it, what the program looks like, and also some notion of what our campaign will be. That is, what are we going to do between now and whenever to make sure we get as many people as we can? And does that sound like a reasonable?
Yeah, it's very. Michael, I think that's a good idea. And
Okay.
Those are good list of checklist things to be done.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you all very much for that. I appreciate it. Well, the next two items we'll do fairly
Sorry,
quickly.
Mike, can I interrupt? On the agenda, we forgot to put approval of the minutes. Do we want to do that?
Well, it's not on the agenda, Mimi, so I'm not sure it's an appropriate thing for us to do. It's certainly a mistake I made, but it's just one of many. So
I will say, I don't know if it's my changing address. I never received minutes, and I didn't see them posted on the town website with the agenda.
All right, I'll find out about it. You did send everybody out a note, Stuart, I think, letting them know your address. So, okay,
Yes.
I'll take care of that.
Yeah, these were minutes from back in November because we didn't have.
November, because we didn't have a quorum at our December meeting.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So I will be attending the planning board meeting. Excuse me. Next item is for those of you who weren't at our last meeting, we had a representative from the planning board come talk to us about a proposed warrant article as they intend to put out, which is a modification of height limits in business district number 1. And business district number 1 is over by Paparazzi, Charlie Audi's gas station, motel, that area. And the proposal was the current restriction is 25 feet and to have that go to 35 feet. And we had a good discussion of it. My proposal is at our next meeting, I will have for you a formal statement of what the warrant article looks like. And I would like us to take a position on that warrant article. So that's the update on that. Then the next
quick question, comment.
Sure.
On that article, my position, whatever it was a month ago, was that rather than just make it the same as the other districts, just because that's maybe convenient and simple, that the area is so small and sort of confined that I'd like to actually see the height go over to 45 feet or higher. And so that you could put a significant, like 3 or 4 story hotel, something there. I think that just pairing it up with the existing heights in the other districts might be a little short-sighted. So I don't know what your personal opinion is on that, but I continue to think this is an opportunity for a very small area and it's right next to Route 2 to have some significantly higher buildings. I don't think there are many residential communities that would be impacted, and I think you may get much more bang for your buck from a commercial development perspective.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, it's a planning board warrant article, not ours. But what I am perfectly willing to do is make sure that Sue Falshon, who was the one who spoke to us, is aware of that perspective, and I just see where they take it. So I'll make sure that gets passed along to her. The next item, I was approached by Jennifer Schuneman, who for some of the new people on the committee might not know, she was the former chair of this committee and member of this committee. And she is also, as Stuart kind of mentioned, she's one of the people behind the idea of taking the property over at 74 Commonwealth Avenue, which was did that consignment shop beforehand and turned it into a guitar museum. Because of the age of that building, older than 50 years, it needs to go before the historical commission and have a demolition discussion. You might know that the town has what's called a demolition delay. And for any structure that I think is post-World War II, the historical commission can require that a demolition of the property be delayed 1 year. They don't need to do that, but they can. And Jennifer had asked me to bring this matter to the attention of our committee in the hope that we would, as a committee, support the idea of asking the historical commission not to invoke a demolition delay on that property so that it can be taken down and progress can be made on the museum. As you might know, it's an old building. It's a cinder block building. I don't know how many of you have been in it lately, but I guess I would call it a pretty dilapidated building. So she has asked that we take it up, and if the committee is willing and able, they can authorize me to write a letter to the historical commission in support of not invoking a demolition delay on this property. So I'm happy to entertain questions or comments.
So Mike, I've never gone inside the building, just driven by it probably 1,000 times. It doesn't, unless the building has some historical significance I'm not aware of, it doesn't seem to have any historical features. Are there any factors where we would want it looked at from or we would want it preserved? Or, because I agree with you, just because it's in a particular district or area, imposing a year delay seems, not really very equitable, given the fact that there just seems to be a complete lack of historical value to that property. But again, I don't know.
The building is constructed. It has nothing to do with being in a district. It has to be in a district, but it just has to do with its age.
Right.
Not in the exact demolition delay, but I'm pretty sure it's like post World War II or something like that. So this is a cinder block constructed building. It has no insulation. The plumbing services that are in there are at the end of its life. So I think the point is that there is nothing of any that know of that has any historical significance. And so I think the hope of Jennifer, and I firmly would support it, that we just write a letter on behalf of the committee to the historical commission, hoping that they don't invoke a demolition delay so we can get on with the construction of this guitar museum, which I think would be a good addition to the West Concord scene.
So Michael, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I've been in the building and I know, about and I've seen some of the plans of the museum. I really agree with you. I think it's time to move forward, and I would support not delaying the demolition and reconstruction of the
Yeah, and
museum.
I don't know what the historical commission is going to do, but there's no hint here that they intend to invoke it. They're just doing their job, which is because of the age of the building, they have to have a discussion about this. So
yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
It is listed in the Macris database as a contributing building to the historic character of the neighborhood. With no specific features, but it was listed as part of the inventory. Part of what where the HC is going to be, historical commission will be looking at it, is really looking at losing that building. How does it affect the historic character of the neighborhood? So we could kind of talk a little bit about part of the historic character typically is kind of a contiguous kind of streetscape, and sort of the ways in which the new design of the building is going to affect the district as a whole. The types of cases that you want to make in this particular instance isn't so much of like, it's a dilapidated building, because you could say like major architectural treasures could be dilapidated, but you can we should maybe make it the case a little bit about like the historic character, that it maybe contributes only because it's old, but that there's ways in which the new development can contribute to the character in a better way.
I move that Mike formulate a letter encouraging any or facilitating any acceleration of demolition that's possible.
I'll second that.
Okay. So thanks, Mimi, for your comments, and we have a motion from Steve and a second by Greg. Is there any discussion?
I think Mimi's points I take them seriously of how they will look at it and should look at it. But I think they will end up,
Yeah.
there will be a lot of controls over the future site.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a design, and I'm sure, and there's plenty of minds that will be put toward that, so I'm not concerned about that.
It's more
It-
about
it will
how to make the
get your
case,
point.
what the characters of the case that we can make. We want to make the arguments that are within their lane.
Correct.
Given that, you know, Jennifer was a board member and she's known to a number of us, probably better to make the case in more general, and this being an example as to our more global belief that moving forward, the buildings like this building with a lack of, if you will, historical features. Because otherwise, Mike, there might be a potential conflict of interest or, you know, reservation, and I don't think that should factor into it.
Okay, I agree. Any other comments? Thank you. All those in favor, aye, or raise your hand. I guess raising your hand today would be good because I can't. Okay, and are there people who are opposed?
Mike, I'm going to abstain.
And that's Betsy, right?
No, that's Stuart.
I can't.
Sure.
So Mike, we probably should do a roll call vote for this. Do you want me to, maybe you could just do it for your Zoom, or would you like some help?
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Everybody ready? Stuart,
Abstain.
Glenn,
Approved.
Mimi,
Approved.
Steve,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Tom,
Approve.
Mark,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so the measure passes. Thank you very much.
And Mike, if I could just add, I wanted to wait for the vote to go through. Jen also reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and we did a letter. I ran it by the executive committee and approved. We did a very similar letter that I sent over to the Historic Commission in favor of the Guitar Museum.
Okay, could you,
Uh,
Link, is it possible you could send me that letter?
Of course. Sure, I'll email that to you, Mike. Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Mike, I also sent a letter of support and I can report the cultural district also voted to send the same letter of support today.
Will you two send your letter
Sure.
to me? So the reason I'm saying that is I'll reference that our knowledge that both the chamber and you have done this, so. that'll be
Sure.
good. All right, thank you very much. I'll be meeting with Public Works to talk to them about sewer improvement fees as we discussed at our last meeting. Then after that, the next item is the business roundtable. All I want is to let you know that I am going to discuss with the roundtable and with the chamber and with cultural councils, and I'm going to talk to them individually about the idea of, on a periodic basis, getting all of these parties together to talk about, so we don't necessarily have a forum, but we have a roundtable where once a year, twice a year, all the folks that are connected to economic vitality can get together and talk about issues surrounding vitality. So this is a long-range project, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to start it. It might die, short death, who knows? But I'll be back to you as soon as I can with more information on that. The next item on the agenda is from our tourism manager, Beth. You're up.
Hey everybody. So Mimi and I both generally give our updates, but we also did a presentation this morning to the partnership that was sort of a year in review, which Mimi I think is going to queue up. Maybe.
I don't know where that screen's coming from. Let's see if this works. No.
Who's doing this?
Mimi.
I am, hang on. It's got dueling,
I thought we'd been hacked.
No,
No.
just Mimi.
let's see.
Proving she's not a good actor.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Progress. I see it.
Looks a little
There we
better.
go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we did this in like 30 to 40 minutes this morning. So we are just going to quickly go through this and then we will attach it. And Mike can send it out to everybody with the minutes from today's meeting. So what we did was a little overview. Okay, Mimi. Starting with what we do and what our differences are and similarities, just to try to make sure everybody understands sort of the lens that both of us conduct our business and that we're both under the town manager's office. So obviously my role is much more outward facing, tourist 50 miles and beyond. I work with a lot of the regional and state tourist agencies, and I'm the liaison for the Chamber of Commerce. And on Mimi's end, she works with in Concord businesses, much more local small business supports in Concord, working to obviously get people to Concord as well. And her working groups are listed there with the cultural councils and the business partnership. Next. So we broke it into 3 main chunks: Concord 250, development and zoning. Obviously 250 was the biggest part of our 2025. I don't need to tell any of you that, so we can go ahead. So here's a very picturesque view of what happened to the revenue in the visitor center. And this is merchandise only. The blue is current year, and every single month has been above all prior years, with the top sellers being the 250 type merchandise. So really gangbuster year. Same thing with the website. Hits can, we far exceeded any other metric that we've ever had for visitors to our website. Next. Same thing with tours, tour revenue. And the new tours that we focused on for 2025 are the Patriots of Color, Beyond 75, our Hidden in Plain Sight, which is our Mason tour. We had a brand new series with AARP, a webinar series, and we worked a lot with MBTA on some programs for them. The partnerships we identified here, the intermunicipal agreement, obviously everybody's aware of how we did that for the 250, and our sort of featured presentation of Patriots of Color, which we used the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism grant to do. Quickly going over the local partners that we work with. Obviously my attractions, my restaurants, everybody in Concord, and then at the state level, all of the state tourist offices, the concierges. And we focused really on this Revolutionary Valley Regional Tourist Council. For anybody that doesn't know, we are technically part of what used to be called the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitor Bureau. We rebranded in 2025 to be Revolutionary Valley. We are one of 13 state regional tourist districts. I'm currently the chair of the board, and we did a lot of cooperative marketing. And here's our ad. Go see if it'll play.
Oh, sorry, I didn't do the sound, so.
That's okay. You'll be able to see it when we did, but one of the things we used our funding for was WGBH in the Ken Burns series. We ran a TV spot every single episode multiple times, and it did really, really well for us. Gave you a couple of quick stats as tourism as an economic driver, and then on to Mimi stuff.
So for the 250th, we sort of looked at how to look at some of the infrastructure that would support the event, but also be ongoing amenities for Concord. So did the 15 benches as part of the 250th around Concord Center, the 2 wayfinding murals, one at the Visitor Center and at Thoreau Depot, And for the event itself, did a bunch of pedestrian walking signs. There was extensive business outreach. Folks probably attended some of the great meetings that happened next door with probably 100 businesses attending. Marie Foley from Revolutionary Concord did a great job in terms of looking at retail swag for the businesses to collectively do. The big way I contributed was around the food safety program. So we did 3 full-day trainings for all the food businesses. So 75 people got trained. So that's ongoing resources for the business so that they've got a manager on site. And then did equipment grants to the farm stands and the food businesses, which meant that we had several nodes during the 250th with food trucks and other food vendors. And we were able to have local businesses be part of that equation. And they were able to now use that capacity building for other events. Our local receipts, you can see that there was an uptick in 2025. It wasn't kind of major, but we did see that we've generated almost $2 million between occupancy taxes, meal taxes, and personal property. But then switching gears to our next 3 of our 3 themes, the middle one around commercial development. The big development over in Elm Street was complete, which was a major milestone with Starbucks, the Chipotle, and Citizens Bank. And we're hoping for Sally Pizza to move in soon. And we can really dramatically see the level of commercial development over the last year because the building department is now charging the building fees directly based on the cost of construction rather than being flat fees for individual things. So if we were to look at what the fees were from FY25, that means that there was $52.15 million worth of new commercial real estate development. In 2023, I don't know for sure, but I believe that was the Concord Museum redevelopment. Looking forward to 2026, I'm not sure when they're going to be moving forward with the Deaconess property, but that's going to be another big uptick in terms of commercial development. And of course, MCI and some of the other projects that are on the slated to move forward. But this is a good measure for us to sort of see like what's the increase specifically in that factor of development. 3 other big things that are happening both in development that is ongoing, both work that happened this year and it's going to be ongoing. The initial vision plan for MCI completed this past spring, and that's going to be an ongoing effort to sort of look at the future for that property. The land use working group is a group that's specifically looking at municipal property of what are some of the ways which the town could potentially redevelop or sell properties to be able to better use existing town properties for both revenue coming in to consolidate different town services, and then with a primary goal of looking at public safety and public works. Those facilities are in need of repair, and basically how can we address that need without burdening the taxpayers. And back to MCI, the sewage treatment plant there really could be a game changer for expanding sewer capacity, which is a major factor of limiting our commercial development. One of the goals for the select board was looking at commercial vacancies or vacancies in general. And I've started tracking every month about the commercial vacancies. I'm now starting month 6, so it's not quite enough to kind of make anything definitive, but I am seeing same properties staying vacant the entire time. Almost all of those are commercial property or office uses. We're seeing a number of office landlords looking to change uses, which is kind of triggering some challenges in terms of permitting. But those folks are both looking at converting to mixed use for residential, but also other businesses like service businesses. The MBTA zoning passed, as folks know. We have seen no new developments yet on that. It's important to note that the Economic Vitality Committee was successful for our 2 warrant articles last year. One, to address the minimum parking requirements when there's change of use, and we're seeing that has been a factor, and that's a positive benefit for businesses in the last year where there has been some of those changes of use. There's been a nail salon, there's another retail spot that's going in. And so that's been a key thing that has enabled those businesses to come through. And the accessory uses permitted in industrial districts. Again, we've have at least one property that's been a positive impact for. And then looking to 2026, Beth, you've got the big message here in terms of FIFA and the tall ships?
Yeah, so an unusual predicament, an unusual situation for us, sorry, not a predicament, is an excitement that we have a confluence of events coming to the area this spring with FIFA, the tall ships, and of course the anniversary of the Independence Day in July with the celebration that the state is planning. So we are really ramping up. We are partner members of FIFA Boston, which means that we'll be able to help them produce itineraries, get people to spend day trips here. We've spent some time with FIFA, and our understanding is that the visitors that come for 2 to 3 weeks. They're international visitors. They are likely to spend more, stay longer, and they're going to attend one game on one day, and then they have 13 or more days that they're looking for stuff to do. So it is our intention to provide something to do. Same thing with the tall ships. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people to see these international boats and massive ships, and they will be here for quite some time, and it runs right into the Independence Day celebration. So on top of the regular 250 that's already still going in terms of Concord activities as well as the state, we have these 2 additional opportunities to introduce ourselves to a whole new audience of international visitors. Okay.
And the 2 big things that are on my agenda is really looking at arts and culture, not only this forum, but the 2 cultural districts. The MCC is revisiting how they do their guidelines, which could potentially impact those. And I continue to sort of look at how can we really make Concord identified as an arts town, not just a history town, because we've got a number of businesses, a really strong cluster in that we can really advance for both visitors, but also for local uses. And then I'm looking for working to do integrated permitting workflow. So right now, we've got a bit of a handle of like what has to happen for the businesses to go through, but there's the behind the scenes sort of who gets what when that can be what ends up stumbling the business side of things, and looking to address some of the duplicative things. So for example, business owners are having to give their plans to different town staff, even though it's actually going through the same portal. So we're looking at like how can we make it more accessible. So that might be both working with individual staff and Permitize, the software company that we're using to kind of address that. I'm finding that it's helpful to look at a specific sector. So we're going to be focusing specifically on food businesses, which ends up impacting basically anybody that's serving food or setting up a kitchen, and focusing on them because it's the trickiest one, and they're the ones that are most permit heavy. And that's what we're going to address for the first go this year. Folks have any questions?
So, sort of a general question. Are we, I guess, Mike, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I think that one of the things that I found a little bit surprising is, I was at a FinCom meeting a couple of months ago, and they sort of are questioning, because of the budget focus, they're really starting to look at the value of, not only the economic vitality manager, your role, but other roles in the town. And so I think one of the things you mentioned in your presentation was some of the successes, some of the things that have gone well and that have been evolved. And I'm wondering, is there an opportunity to sort of get an understanding as to sort of what those accomplishments have been sort of packaged, and then what you're thinking about for priorities for 2026 and 27, and so how we as the EDC can weigh in and say, well, of those 15 projects or goals you have, our members or our constituents want to prioritize, 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is. Because I heard that specifically at an earlier meeting I was at today, where sort of the classic, CEO mentality of what are the goals, what was accomplished, and sort of where are we moving, I think would be super helpful, specifically in your job, but also as a message to the select board and a message to a town manager as to the value of the role, why we need it, why we think it's great, but then to be able to go back to our constituencies and to say, well, here's what the priorities are.
So I'm going to be, Beth and I are doing a more detailed report. We recognized as it is, we zoomed through this really fast. That's gonna have all the various metrics of like visitors to the visitor center that, this was just like a summary report, so we'll have a more detailed one. And in terms of the goals, so those are our 3 goals for that coming up is sort of the main things that we're spending a bulk of our time this coming year on. If there's kind of other ones that folks think, I remember this time last year, the year before, you're like, you've got too many goals, so we kind of summed it down to 3.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like a couple years ago, we had 18.
So what do you think of the 3?
Well, so I'll give you the classic CEO response. And the classic CEO response is a goal is only good if you can measure it and track it and then sort of check it off. Yes, success, 50% success or failure. So if the 3 goals are data driven and possibly numerical, and so we can ascertain what they actually are, concrete, and then they can be measured and tracked. I think it's great. But economic development is not a goal. Right? If you say we want 5 new businesses, that's a goal. If we go for 5, not so good. We go 3 for 5, pretty good. So I didn't pay attention as to what the top 3 goals are, but I don't think they're quantifiable right now.
You saw my presentation twice today.
I know.
And you don't know what my goals are. Come on. I'm disappointed.
Fair point. I just I'll look at the tape.
Yeah, we are.
But they have to be measurable, is my point.
Yeah,
The
we're trying
comment
to, I think you're gonna see the report is gonna be very data driven. There's some of those metrics I and Beth don't have control over. In terms of like, vacancies, there's gonna be some limited ability to address it because there's a lot of different factors that are in play. So in terms of like a CEO, you can kind of think of like inputs and outputs, and we're sort of looking at tracking both of those, and we'll kind of see where some of the corollaries are gonna be.
No, but vacancies, like if you say like a couple of years ago when you first started, it was like, hey, can we just have a workable website? So now it's like website goal, check. It's good. Welcome to Concord, welcome businesses. Vacancy is not really a goal. And I don't know how, I just don't know how you gotta figure it. I just don't know how it's trackable.
Yeah.
Well, I'll present you with all the data, and if there's some particular metrics. Yeah, I feel like for me often, I think I've maybe have talked about this in the group before, trying to figure out what is the particular thing that we're looking for that kind of captures a bunch of the nuances. So in the last community I was in, we had an issue around public safety in the downtown. And the metric that for me was how many moms with kids in strollers were in Bellingham Square. And that was the metric I was looking at. In another community, it was how many people who live in the neighborhood had a business in the neighborhood and were shopping in the neighborhood. I'm still trying to get a handle of like, what is the kind of multi-dimensional one here that captures the changes and that kind of, maybe isn't one that I have a direct relationship, but it helps address the underlying issue. And I think I know a big one is like, is Concord business friendly? And I'm not quite sure how to capture what might be a particular signal that Concord is business friendly. But it's too.
I mean, I think that on that particular question, if you go to a bunch of realtors, you go to a bunch of developers, they'll say Concord's slower, more expensive, and they'll give you concrete examples of, I did the same thing in Lexington, it cost me $20,000 more in Concord.
But then you
So
can
instead
look
of
at
2 months, it's 4 months.
But you can also look at, we don't have a lot of vacancies. In terms of ground level vacancies, which is really the core of what economic vitality is trying to address, is ground level vacancies in the business districts exceedingly low.
Yeah. Beth and Mimi, the question, I thank you very much for that presentation. You must be exhausted having done this at least a couple times today. But from my perspective, my ask of you is, what is it that you're going to be trying to accomplish that we can be helpful with? So are there objectives that you have or goals that you have that can be translated into actions that this committee might take to help or facilitate you in accomplishing your goals? So I don't know if you have an answer to that, but I certainly would at a subsequent meeting would very much like to see, well, here are the 4 things we're trying to accomplish. And here's where we think the committee might be able to be helpful. Maybe it's nothing, I don't know, but
Well, that's a great question, Mike, and it's something that we certainly plan on putting into our sort of year in review that will have a lot of the data, but it also will have what our goals are for 2020, for the next year. Our goals in terms of like performance, those come from the select board, and then each staff is asked to, support the select board goals by their own goals and tie them directly to the select board goals.
yeah.
So Mimi and I both had to provide goals, what they were, what select board goals they tied to, and they are very trackable. We have 3 measurable points throughout the year that we get tracked. So, I can, like, one of mine is a lunch and learn series for town staff. That's one of the goals that I've established, which ties directly to the select board's goal, one of their goals on communication, and it's really just teaching the staff about their own town. So we're presenting a series of lunch and learns. And that goal will be tracked by who comes, how they, what they think, and so forth. Like, that's an easy one for me to articulate to you guys. So
Well,
that's
fine.
an example.
I would like to suggest that at a subsequent meeting, that's a major focus of our activity with both you and with Mimi, to lay out your goals and show us where we can be helpful in trying to help you achieve those goals. So I appreciate
Sounds good.
that. And thanks very much. That was a nice presentation. Next item on the agenda is public comment. We have public Neri and public Linda. Would either of you 2 ladies care to make a comment?
I'm good. Thank you, Mike.
Hi, Mary. Thank
Hi.
you. Linda?
Good discussion. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Linda. And appreciate you both being here. Last item on our agenda is setting our next meeting. And how do we feel about the 18th of February? See, Glenn's nodding, thumbs up. Anybody going, holy mackerel? No, that's my birthday. I can't make it.
Mike, that's school vacation week. I'm tentatively I can dial in. I don't think we're going anywhere as of now.
Anybody else affected by the school vacation? So you'd be able to dial in, Chris?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It doesn't work for me either.
I'm sorry?
I'm out that day too.
But Mike, it is not that, it is Ash Wednesday. Just as a note.
Oh, well, let's, how about backing up and doing it on the 11th?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, so 2/11, and we'll do it at 4:30, and hopefully Mimi will help us get reserve the space.
Will do.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So I'll move.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.